The Minnesota Timberwolves evened up their series with a dominant win, and with Steph Curry's injury, is the series already over? Plus, how much should the Cavs and Celtics be panicking? It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night in under 30 minutes. That should be real easy tonight with only one game on the calendar here, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves beating the Golden State Warriors. We'll get into that here in a second. But hey, thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Today and every day, we're here 7 days a week covering every single playoff game in the association till a champion is chosen. And then we're probably going to keep going on. And then on Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, at John_Karalis on Twitter, and I host the Locked On Celtics podcast.
You sweating over there a little bit, John?
No, totally fine. Got them right where we want them.
Okay, we'll get into that in the third segment with the Celtics expert here. I'm going to ask him how much the Celtics should be panicking. We'll talk about the Cavaliers and the Pacers in the second bit of today's show. But let's start with the Minnesota Timberwolves, a dominant win over the Golden State Warriors, 117-93. No Steph Curry in this one, out with a hamstring injury. Anthony Edwards left the first half, missed the final 6 minutes, came back, proved to be fine. Is it real or fake, John? Let's just do it right off the bat. Real or fake here with no Steph Curry? This series is over.
Real. That's so real for a variety of reasons. But I think what we saw was they just don't have the consistent ability to score. And look, this was the night for Jimmy Butler to do something, and he didn't. He was just okay. He was fine. He was fine. But this, if playoff Jimmy was going to make an appearance, this would be the night to do it. And he never, it's not like he started to and then packed it in when it didn't go well. So if you're going to rely on Buddy Hield to be your primary scorer, if he's going to be the number one guy, you're cooked.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that, right? Like, there's just not enough consistency there, and that's the key, right? You had a good performance from Kuminga, 18 points off the bench. But you don't always see that, right? You know, and you look at this, and it's just the Golden State Warriors are missing Steph Curry. I found this kind of interesting. They lost by 24 points in this one. Steph Curry in the regular season averaged 24.5 points per game, right? It's just like you're missing Steph Curry.
They would have won by a half point if he played.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things where, like, what can you do when it comes down to it? Let's go over let's stick with the winners here for a second. Let's go over to Locked On Wolves for more.
The Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Golden State Warriors by 24 points in Game 2 of their second round series, evening the series at a game apiece. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Daily Locked On Wolves podcast. Turns out a Steph-less Warriors offense is a toothless Warriors offense, an incompetent offense even. Golden State scores just 93 points on the night. The Wolves actually did step up their game defensively as well, and just looked a lot more ready to play basketball. They jumped out to a quick 13-0 lead. The Warriors did not make a bucket for the first 5 minutes of the game. On Minnesota's side, the offense was still pretty clunky until it started to kind of round into shape in the second half. Anthony Edwards left midway through the second quarter with a tweaked left ankle. The team called him questionable with an ankle sprain. Wolves fans know Ant just tightens the laces, does whatever he does in the locker room, comes back in the second half. He actually played much better down the stretch in the game as the Wolves put the game away early in the fourth quarter than he did in the first half. Minnesota was led by a near triple-double from Julius Randle, 24, 11, and 7. Great games from Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, as well as the Wolves bench finally showed up. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
So he makes a great point there if we're looking at the Timberwolves and kind of looking at, is this series over, right? And that is, through these two games, there hasn't been a dominant Anthony Edwards game at all.
Yeah, and that you would expect to be something that kind of dooms you.
Yeah.
But
if you're winning without those, oh boy, when he has that.
Yeah. I honestly thought he was done. I thought he was done. That ankle injury I thought was, I'm glad to be wrong. I thought I thought that was serious, because the way it wasn't a sprain, it was he was falling one way and someone was landing from a jump directly on it. So there was like an impact and a pull. And I was like, ooh, this could be some kind of weird injury that and to see him come back, that was incredible. So yeah, they are kind of waiting for Anthony Edwards to get back to being Anthony Edwards. I know there's a big rush for the league, for the media to kind of like make him the face of the league. He hasn't exactly performed in that manner, but I will give him the credit for, the 5 assists and the 9 rebounds and a more well-rounded game. And he was a plus 21, a team best, a game best plus 21. So he did do other things. He had 3 steals. He, got himself to the line. He put pressure on them in other ways. You get a big contribution from Julius Randle. You get a big contribution from Nikhil Alexander-Walker off the bench. Naz Reid was hitting threes. Dante DiVincenzo, started, hitting threes. You're getting a lot from the supporting cast. And so Edwards doesn't have to do it all himself, which is, I think, more important than when will Edwards start doing things himself.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense here. So let's go over to Locked On Warriors for their take.
This is one of those ones that just felt like a scheduled loss for the Warriors. No Steph Curry. It's game 2. You're kind of experimenting with the lineup and figuring out what works, what doesn't for these next few games coming up at Chase Center. And it was clear early that the Warriors had Game 5 Rockets series level attention to detail, effort, hustle, rebounding, that sort of thing. 13-0. The Wolves got out to an early lead. The Warriors had 5 points. 5 points 7 minutes into the first quarter before they hockey subbed the entire starters out and went to the bench. The bench was not good in the game today, minus 2 players. And Steve Kerr emptied the entire thing. I mean, the total number, when you go down, they played like 15 guys. Pat Spencer went 14 minutes. They went with some Kevin Knox minutes early in the game, but 2 players stuck out. And it's like January Warriors basketball again. It was Trace Jackson-Davis in 19 minutes, 6 of 6 from the floor, 6 rebounds, 15 points, gave them really good minutes that I think they can utilize these next couple of games with what he was able to do on Gobert, who only scored 5 points for Minnesota. And then Jonathan Kuminga, he was the huge plus from this game, looked confident. As confident as we have seen him since coming back from the ankle injury. JK's always been one of those guys, like, give him the keys, tell him it's his time to go, and that's usually what he does. He goes. He had 18 points in 26 minutes, 5 rebounds. The hustle was there. The turnaround, the pull-up game, hit a 3-pointer, was finishing in transition. Defensively was awesome. So really good game from Jonathan Kuminga. Not enough from Jimmy Butler, who only took 13 shots in the game today. Stat line was fine, 17, 7, and 4. But overall, that's not going to get it done. The Warriors shoot just 28% from 3, lose 117-93 is game 3. Heads to the Bay Area with the series tied up 1-1.
Yeah, it sounds like they're missing offense in Steph Curry.
That's it. But look, I will say getting game 1 allows for the game 2 here to happen. I think the best point in that was that you kind of have a chance to experiment with, okay, let's see what works. Let's take this game 2. You've already stolen back home court. So maybe your best chance is let's rely on the home court. Let's extend this series. Let's try to, we're going to try to win every game, obviously, but like give Steph a chance to get back. Let's figure out, is there a combination of guys that works or doesn't work against this Timberwolves team? We'll get the video, we'll get the film, we'll watch it, and we'll devise an actual game 3 where we're really trying to win. And maybe that's why Jimmy Butler wasn't as aggressive as he was. Maybe he's like, okay, look, we're punting. I'm going to do what we can, but this is more gathering. And I'll make this final point about it. The Warriors, with their championship history, have the luxury of understanding how long a series is. And you can do this in a game 2 after you've stolen home court and be like, look, all we need to do is we've done our job. We have this luxury to experiment, knowing that we just have to win our home games and we're good. And so I think it's a fair point. And look, I said the Warriors are cooked because you're cooked if you can't get Steph Curry back. But I don't know. Maybe if they find something in some combination here, maybe they can find a formula to win this next home game and then just figure it out from there.
No, that's a bit. Look, the championship DNA thing is very real. They're also going to need to figure out a way to not turn the ball over 17 times. And you can see some of the ball handling concerns without Steph Curry there. But hey, look, if they win or lose, we're going to be covering it here on Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night. But let's start talking about a game that's being played tonight. And that is between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers. What do the Cavs need to do to get back into this series? How can Indiana basically close it out? That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. It's playoff season, and that means big performances and even bigger rewards. And DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order for $20 or more. Use code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after a game. Terms apply. Look, if you ever look when you're ordering on those apps and you're trying to order one or two things, and all of a sudden it's like 4 times the price because of all the fees associated with it, there's a better way. With Dash Pass, you get $0 delivery fees and exclusive perks like this one. So how much would you save over the course of a season? So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 or more order and code Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. And thank you for making it Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We're here 7 days a week covering everything you want to know about the association. Now, for your second listen, go pick your favorite team or the most interesting team here. I'm certainly going to be listening to Locked On Pacers, Locked On Cavaliers, Locked On Celtics. We'll get to you. Don't you worry. The third segment is basically Locked On John Karalis here, I feel like, in today's show.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
That's, you know what? It's true. Look, they're down 0-2. We got to talk about it here.
It's legitimate.
It is. And we're going to find out if you're panicking. That's my whole bit for that segment coming up here in a little bit. Always panicking. That's the John Karalis I know here. But let's focus on one of the games tonight, and that is the Indiana Pacers.
The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh boy, it's not looking good. I will say I found this interesting, and it's somewhat interesting for the Celtics too. Both teams are favored. Per FanDuel, the Cavs are -2.5 in this game. So going on the road as a 2.5 point favorite. Why do you think that is, John?
Well, I just think people are leaning into the backs against the wall type of thing. You're the number 1 seed. And it's look, injuries are part of the problem, but despite the injuries, they had a late lead. They had the chance to win that game. And they had the chance to win both games. I feel like both the Celtics and the Cavs, well, I know we'll get to the Celtics in the next segment, but there is an expectation of like the top 2 seeds that have been dominant all year. They ain't going out like that. So we would expect a little bit of desperation in their games, a little added focus. So I would expect that of the Cavs as well.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, right, like they might be down 0-2, but it feels like those were very close games and they could easily be up 2-0. So like they shouldn't panic for that reason. You know, if I'd come in and say like, what do the Cavaliers need to do to win this game? Like the joke answer would be better officiating or be healthy, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of
Right.
both. It's not like when I look at this series so far, I don't want to like point to one thing and be like, that's why they're losing. You know, they're not making threes, or it's almost stuff that's kind of out of their control a little bit when it's the injuries and the officiating. And so I think that's a big part of why you look at them here and you're like, oh, like they'll be fine here. Like they should have won game 2, it feels like.
Well, I mean, everybody's going to latch on to the last 2-minute report. There were, a few mistakes. The most egregious one was the double lane violation that should have been a jump ball instead of Tyrese Halliburton's rebound in 3-pointer to win the game. But look, I was always say, like, if that's what it comes down to, then you know what? How about trying to inbound the ball? How about inbounding the ball when you're up like 6 or 7 with 47 seconds to go? Like you had the ball
multiple times. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, yes, but also, don't mess your diaper. Don't like, you know what I mean? Like, execute this. I'm going to say the same exact thing about the Celtics too. Like for some reason, both of these teams, these top 2 seeds have felt a little panicky in clutch moments, which is a little like, what's going on here? Now the Pacers and the Knicks both, but the Pacers especially. How many times have I said Pacers scare me on this podcast?
You talked about it literally last week when we were looking at this, and I'm like, this feels like a 5-game series to me. And you're like, I think it's like 6 or 7. Yeah. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Pacers win. You are all on the Pacers.
I've been on the Pacers, man. Like this goes back to last year's playoffs when I saw the Celtics swept the Pacers, and that easily every one of those games could have gone the other way. And this is what the Pacers do. So, the Cavs, can they do certain things better? Absolutely. And the injuries don't help, but the Pacers, they are, frantic. Like look at how they won the game. It's frantic, but like, it's like atomic energy. You're just capturing all this explosive, unstable energy in this little spot, and it can kind of go anywhere. Like I would not be surprised if the Pacers get smoked in these next 2 games. Like it could go either way. So the Cavs need to just calm down, be themselves. You got the formula. Guys in, guys out. You've been able to win games all year. So just relax a little bit and do what you do. So it's not time for the Cavs to panic, but it is time for them to make sure you're focused and executing and doing the things that got you to that, number 1 seed.
Yeah, I think it could be as simple as like make a couple more threes. They've shot like 26% from 3 in this. Like we'll talk about that with the Celtics too, I'm sure. Like make a couple more threes. They were the second best 3-point shooting team in terms of 3-point percentage, and you're shooting like 15% worse than that right now or something along those lines. Like that's going to impact the series. I think their defense has also largely been pretty good. They've turned the Pacers over 17 times in both of these games. I'm not exactly sure if that's something that the Pacers can fully withstand over the course of a 7-game series if the Cavaliers just execute a little bit better. And I think that's a big reason of how they probably feel pretty confident that they can beat this Pacers team, I think.
Yeah. So it's a simple formula. It really is. It's a simple formula. So it doesn't surprise me that they're favored. But again, I'm speaking about both teams here. You've lost your margin for error is what you've done.
Yes. That's a great way to put it.
That's it. Like you cannot now go in and withstand a weird shooting night, right? Like Nembhard has been amazing. You can't withstand now someone else coming in and hitting 3 threes because all of a sudden now there's the weird loss. I mean, you can say the last loss was the weird loss, but but the bottom line is the margin for error is gone. You've kind of punted that away. There is more pressure on you to be perfect. And that's when we get to the Celtics, I'm a little more confident in that. The Cavs have not been there. And now this is their first true test. Can you now be perfect when you need to be? That's the big thing. And this is where the injuries really become the issue, because when they've needed to be perfect, they've had a lot of these guys. Can they be perfect can they be perfect leaning on their depth? And now you're on Max Strus and you're on some of these other guys. And that's where it gets tough.
Yeah, we'll see. This will be a fun one tonight. I think both these games tonight are going to be fun. Quickly here, anything on Thunder Nuggets? Thunder favored by 5 points in this one.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's can Jokic will them to a win?
It's literally that. It's literally that.
How special can Jokic be? And
if he's special, they win, right? Like it's kind of as simple as that sometimes.
Yeah, not much analysis there.
We're pros. We get paid for this. Coming up next, let's talk about the Celtics and the 0-2 hole here. I got a burning question for John Karalis. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, take Tulane to a national title, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. So you can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you already have a console, it's all right. A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your, or maybe more importantly, your kids' games wherever you plug in. And if you're not a gamer, with 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Monday, every single day. I love that line. Breaking it all down, every single game across the association here. It's been a lot of fun, but the draft is coming up. Don't forget about Locked On NBA Big Board as your second listen, especially if you're picking high up in the lottery like the Locked On Pelicans are. All right, John. We got the Boston Celtics. It's not tonight, but it's on Saturday. You're going to be traveling today up that big train ride, I'm guessing, up to New York City.
Actually, a flight. Taking the short flight.
Okay. Well, you'll be there in person. Celtics, by the way, favored by 5.5 in this game.
Okay.
They're down 0-2. I'm going to phrase this differently to you than we kind of did in the last one. We're going to play over under.
Over under.
Yeah. I didn't prep him for this one. On a scale of 1 to 10, over under 5.5 is the number that the Celtics should actually be panicking on a scale of 1 to 10.
Under.
Okay. Is that a 5 or is that like a 2?
I mean, I'm gonna say like 3 point. Well, you know, we're gonna nerd it up. 3.14. We're gonna go high. 3.14 because Joe Mazzulla is all about the math.
Yeah, he would actually probably love that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, 3.1416. Well, that's all I got. But panic, no, because for the same reasons I was saying before. And the bottom line for the Celtics has been complete collapse in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Game one, I think they were trying to go with haymakers. I think they built up that 20-point lead. the Knicks started to make their run, and they said, oh, okay, you know what? We'll just hit a few threes here, and we'll put this game away. And they missed a couple of, okay, we'll just take this next three. It'd be fine. And they just kept going with the threes, and they didn't do the work to put the game away. Then the second game, I thought they kind of reacted to collapsing in the first game and got a little panicky. Like I said, with the cat, they started to take uncharacteristic shots that were twos. And it was like, okay, Al Horford really backing down Karl Anthony Towns. Like, okay, that's not what Al Horford has done for 2-3 years now. So it felt like they were starting to overcompensate, and it didn't work. So it's a little bit of a reality check of you're at your best, Boston, when you move the ball, when you have multiple options on offense, when you're confidently reading the game and taking what's there and exploiting the weaknesses. Trying too hard, going too much ISO, not having off-ball action, just kind of wearing the clock down to 10 before you start your offense is not the recipe that it should be. So if they just get, again, back to themselves, get back to what they do best offensively, then that will help them set their defense a little bit better. That takes away transition opportunities that the Knicks have been feeding on to make these comebacks. And I think 2-3, like the difference in this series is basically 2 or 3 shots in each game. Celtics, they went to overtime in game 1. They lost by 1. They had the ball and a chance to take the lead in game 2, even with all of how poorly they were playing. So a little bit better defense, which flows off of a lot better offense, and they should be fine. Celtics haven't lost 3 games in a row. You want to take a guess on when the last time they lost 3 games in a row was?
Oh boy. At least 2 years, right?
Almost exactly 2 years. It was the Miami series in 2023 when they lost those first 3 games. That's the last time they've lost 3 games in a row. So I kind of trust this team to bounce back. Now, will they win the series? It's, again, you've lost your margin for error. So you can't have another bad shooting night, and they're shooting 25% in the series here. Right. And if Cameron Payne, for some reason, he hasn't really played, but you have a weird, like, oh, well, OG Anunoby sprained an ankle. Here comes Cam Payne. Oh, he just hit 4 3-pointer. You can't survive the weirdness.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that's what you've lost. That's what you've given up. So the Celtics have to play a little bit better, a little bit more perfectly. And it would help if Kristaps Porzingis, who has been dealing with this illness that's been up and down and sapping his energy, if he can just be a matchup problem for 20 minutes, then that changes this dynamic, because one of the under-discussed elements of this fourth quarters for Boston in all of these collapses is they haven't been able to go to Porzingis consistently to punish switches. And that's been a bread and butter thing. That's why they got him. And he hasn't been there. And that has hurt. So if he can come back after 2 days off, if he can come back and be effective at all, that changes the complexion of this series.
Yeah. So you mentioned something here that I thought was particularly great, regarding the 3-point shooting and what it does to a defense. And I know Joe Mazzulla really believes in this, but you don't always hear a lot of coaches talking about like how interconnected offense and defense is, right?
Yeah.
And I know he looks at it in terms of like soccer, especially, right? Where you're kind of doing both. And people don't realize, like, you always hear like good defense leads to easy offense because you're out running in transition. But like the reverse of that is true. Good offense can lead to good defense too, because if you make your shots, your defense can get back and get set while the opponent has to take that time to inbound the ball, and eliminates those transition opportunities, which are statistically on like a per possession type basis, the highest scoring opportunities you get other than free throws, essentially.
Yeah.
And so limiting those is a massively important thing, it feels like, for the Boston Celtics to do. And you'll do that by making threes, especially because those threes tend to lead to longer rebounds, which makes it even easier to run against you on that sort of thing. So when you're missing that many, it's not just killing your offense, it's killing your defense too.
And it's killing you. The other thing that people don't want to talk about with the Celtics is Celtics missed a ton at the rim. Missing layups, missing contested layups is just as damaging, sometimes more so. But no one wants to talk about, hey, you missed a lot of layups, because everybody likes the fact that you get to the rim and you try and you forget about those misses.
Yeah.
But missing layups, contested layups, puts the shooter behind the play. The guy who took the layup and missed is now out of bounds, and everyone else is ahead of him. You have an immediate 5-on-4. And if you push the ball up, you're immediately giving that odd man break. And that is where you get the old saying of like, oh, how many times has a missed layup turned into a layup on the other end? And Joe Mazzulla hates missing contested layups. So that's part of why there are a lot of threes and why the Celtics don't tend to take contested layups. So, and they missed a lot in game 2. You gotta, whatever the shot is, you just got to make sure you make the right read and you get the best possible shot, 2 or 3. And especially in the fourth quarter, it doesn't matter. Just whatever the best shot is, you get it, you take it with confidence so you can make it and go back and set your defense.
Yeah, no, I think so. Basically, just tighten it up a little bit, right?
Tighten it up.
That's kind of what I'm hearing here.
Yeah,
I can hear the no panic in your voice.
The 11 minutes that I just talked, just sum it up in like 3 words. Tighten it up, boys.
That's why I think Boston's probably not panicking yet. They're definitely in a hole. There's reasons to be concerned. As you said, you lose the margin for error here. Something's simmering a little bit. 3.14 on the panic scale feels like a little bit of a simmer. So I think that's safe to say here when it comes down to it. We'll see. Look, I'm excited to watch this game. The playoffs have been a whole lot of fun. The second round has been outstanding. If you're missing it, we're catching you up on everything you need to know here on Locked On NBA Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And that's going to do it for us on this Friday episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. On Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at Nola Jake on Twitter, the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, at John_Karalis on Twitter, and host of the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Enjoy the games. We'll be back with y'all next week.